I am Aziron of the Arcturian High Orders. Before I bring what I have come to bring today, sit with me for one breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let whatever urgency arrived with you set itself down for a moment. What follows will ask something of your field. Not effort, not performance, only genuine, unhurried reception. And if you came to this transmission carrying the specific tiredness of someone who has been reaching toward something real with full sincerity and has not yet arrived in the way the reaching seemed to promise, I want you to know before any other word lands. Your presence here is not random, and this transmission was prepared with you specifically in mind. There is an old brass telescope, hand-ground, the kind whose lens was shaped by a craftsman who understood that glass bent by patient hands focuses differently than glass bent by speed. It rests on a wide wooden mantelpiece in a stone house where the late afternoon light turns the dust into gold. Dozens of hands have lifted it over the years. Sincere hands, curious hands belonging to people who genuinely wanted to see the stars more clearly. Most of them pressed the eyepiece to their eye with real desire and real expectation, and saw only blur. They turned the focus ring. They adjusted, squinted, pushed, held their breath, and then, one by one, they set it back on the mantelpiece with the quiet conclusion, "This must not be working, or I must not be doing this correctly." The telescope was not broken. And they were not doing anything wrong in the way that phrase usually implies a correctable technique. They were doing something the instrument was not designed to respond to. They were trying to see. The focus ring of this particular telescope responds to one thing alone, not strength of desire, not sincerity of effort, but the stillness of a hand that has, for one unguarded moment, simply stopped trying and become available.
And in that stillness, something in the barrel extends itself, not forced, not earned. It moves because the one condition it was designed to respond to is genuinely present. The stars appear, not gradually, but all at once, sharp and specific, producing in many first viewers the specific recognition that the stars had always been there, that what changed was not the sky. This is what the Federation calls the Sovereignty Consent Protocol, not a door forced open through sufficient spiritual development, not a code transmitted from a more advanced teacher to a less advanced student, a mechanism, a response relationship between your sovereign field and the 5D frequency environment, precise, consistent, and responsive to conditions that no amount of sincere effort can substitute for, and no amount of genuine arrival can be mistaken for anything other than itself. I come through this transmission line today because what circulates in the awakening population about how the 5D door opens, and I say this with care, without judgment, because the misreadings originate from genuine frameworks, is significantly incomplete. An incomplete framing of a real mechanism produces predictable, specific suffering, not spiritual failure, not unworthiness, but a missing coordinate. I am here to supply it. Before I walk you through the protocol, one piece of foundational architecture must land first. The 5D frequency band is not a location, not a destination, not a dimension somewhere above this one that certain souls ascend to while others miss the transit. It is a frequency relationship, a specific state of resonance between the architecture of your sovereign field and the band of awareness in which sovereignty, coherence, and multi-dimensional perception operate simultaneously. It exists right now in the space you occupy as you receive this signal.
It is accessible to any field that meets the resonance conditions for entry. This is why the Federation does not describe 5D as a reward. We describe it as a calibration outcome. The door does not open because you are good enough. It opens because you are aligned enough. These are fundamentally different mechanisms with fundamentally different implications for what the work actually is. There are 3 components in the Sovereignty Consent Protocol. 3 distinct internal conditions the Arcturian High Orders have tracked across thousands of threshold passages in awakening civilizations well beyond this one. In the Federation's work with awakening humanity across this passage, almost every soul who has described standing at the 5D threshold without crossing has been genuinely missing one of these three. Not the same one in every case, three different ones, distributed across the population in legible patterns. And knowing which one you are missing changes everything about what is actually needed. I will walk you through all three before this transmission closes. This transmission has been prepared and carried through the Arcturian High Orders. From the Commission, the Federation designates the Sapphire Mandate, the working group dedicated to threshold passage mechanics, sovereignty field architecture, and the patterns the cosmic record has cataloged across the most consistent stall points in an awakening civilization's access to its own next frequency band. The information I am carrying is not new within the Federation. What has changed is that the density in the collective field has thinned precisely enough for this framework to be delivered in direct language rather than in the more heavily symbolic register previous windows required. The window is genuinely open. That is why I am here now. The first component of the Sovereignty Consent Protocol is what the cosmic record designates genuine sovereign intent. Not declared intent, not aspiring intent, not the intent that presents itself sincerely and with full emotional investment. Genuine sovereign intent has a precise frequency signature, and it is distinguishable, at the level of the field, from its nearest neighbor, which I will call aspiring intent. Let me describe the difference with enough precision that the body can recognize it in itself. Aspiring intent is forward-reaching. It originates in a self that experiences itself as not yet in the right place, moving toward a better version of itself, reaching toward a frequency it does not yet inhabit. There is genuine sincerity in aspiring intent, real love, real momentum, real spiritual investment. But the Sovereignty Consent Protocol does not register it as its first activation condition. Aspiring intent is oriented from the position of current incompleteness. It says, I want to access 5D, I am working toward 5D. And the protocol, listening at the frequency level, hears the defining feature of that signal. I am not there yet. The frequency relationship aspiring intent attempts to activate is located in a future self. The protocol cannot meet a future self. It can only meet the present field. Genuine sovereign intent originates from a different location. It does not reach forward, it recognizes. It emerges from the genuine, however quiet, however brief, interior recognition that the frequency being sought is not other than what the soul already is. Not what it will become, what it already is at its deepest structural level. The soul carrying genuine sovereign intent is not reaching toward 5D from outside of it. It is remembering toward it from within. And in the quality of that remembering, not its loudness, not its duration, but its genuine interiority, the first component registers. These moments of recognition cannot be manufactured. They arrive in unexpected stillness, in the middle of the ordinary, in a genuine rest that was not performed. But they can be recognized when they arrive, and recognizing them even once, even briefly, is sufficient to register the first component in the field. What I have described is the foundation on which the second and third components stand. But there is a second component that produces the most consistent and consequential confusion in the awakening population, because it involves an interior action that almost every major spiritual framework available to your world has described inaccurately. The cosmic records reading runs counter to something many of you have taken as foundational. And after the second, there is a third, the paradox component, which asks the soul to do the thing that feels most like abandoning the very outcome it has worked toward. What comes on the other side of this marker is the section that changes how the first layer reads. What I have given you is the foundation. What follows is the architecture.